Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the ASMG Backpass. I've got a few hot takes from the past weekend, but we'll also touch on some of the important U.S. Open Cup games that involves Georgia Conference teams this coming weekend, as well as a couple of midweek games to look forward to this week. But before we get into the hot takes from this past week, there's a very important announcement from the UPSL on the league and its leadership. Steve Tello has been announced as the new league CEO at the UPSL, replacing Graham Walsh. Tello brings more than 4 decades of leadership experience in the sports and media, with 20 of those years at Fox Sports Net as Senior Vice President and General Manager. Mr. Tello was quoted as saying, "I'm excited to lead the UPSL into its next chapter. Graham Walsh and his team have built something extraordinary, and now it's time to expand its impact. My focus will be on strengthening relationships with clubs, sponsors, and communities, while professionalizing our operations to maximize both competitive and commercial growth. The UPSL is uniquely positioned to be the bridge between grassroots participation and the professional game, and I look forward to scaling its reach and influence." So very exciting times coming in as the UPSL continues to grow and build firm foundations for the future. And this is what I was talking about last week. There's not been much attention on the developmental phase of the game, but the UPSL is now putting the focus on that part of the game. And now it also looks as if another chapter is being prepared to be written in that structure of the UPSL. So with that announcement out of the way, we can get back into the results from this past week in the Georgia Premier Division. We'll start with zone number 1. Of course, we had the game with Pachuca, Georgia, traveling to FC Columbus Elite. A 5-0 victory for Pachuca, Georgia. Pachuca really showing a certain quality out of that young team. Able to score a lot of goals. They're doing really well to solidify their place in the playoffs. FC Columbus, though, this was a little bit of a surprise for me, judging from their performance from last week when they tied Kalonji per profile. They played so well in that game against the defending regular season champions, coming from 2-0 down to draw that game to get their only point of the season so far. And you would think that would be the springboard to going on to better results coming up, but they've fallen back a little bit here. With this devastating loss that they had, and they remain bottom of zone 1. And so they're going to have to start getting some results and try to get away from that relegation spot, which is that last place spot in each one of the zones. So that was a bad loss for Columbus Elite after such a promising start last week. Pachuca still on frame to get something out of this season, and Ricardo Montoya's men are doing quite well going into the next week to start the second half of the season. The second game in Zone 1, Georgia Revolution win their game at home against Georgia Impact 2-1. Georgia Revolution now kind of catapulted themselves into the playoff picture with this victory. Georgia Impact have not been playing poorly. They just haven't been able to get the results that they want. But they did have a very good weekend with the back-to-back games to get 4 points out of 6. And so they're doing well to claw themselves up the division table. And so not a bad performance by them, but just fell a little short against the Revolution, and setting up again for both of these teams a very interesting second part of the season. And the last game that we had in Zone 1, it was a game on ASMG, a game won by Atletico Buford, who remain unbeaten halfway through their first season in the Premier Division in Georgia. 1-0 victory over Georgia Athletic. Very hard fought game, very evenly matched game. Although it was low scoring, it was very enjoyable to see. Back and forth, very tense, more so than fluid. And but Atletico did just enough to get that victory. Very important one, keeps them in first place. It's an extraordinary story out of Buford there, and it'll be interesting to see if they can keep that momentum going. They started so well in the first part of the season with that victory over Kalonji per profile, emphatically, as a matter of fact, 8-3. and they've just gone on and on. They've only had the one draw where they dropped points, but other than that, they've been perfect. So we'll have to keep an eye on them to see if they can maintain that and possibly become champions in their first ever foray into the Premier Division. So we'll get on to zone number 2. Dalton United at home, losing to Atlanta United 4-2. Lots to think about in this type of contest. Atlanta United came into this game rock bottom of zone 2, no points, and 2 losses, but they have 2 games in hand, which they're going to make up this coming week, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Dalton United also bottom of their table now with this defeat, only 1 point from the season, and that's very unusual for Dalton United. They're generally the team that's going to be challenging at the top of the table, and I think they're now worrying signs here that they're not getting the performances that they're not even close to getting the performances that you would expect from Dalton United. It's halfway through the season. I don't know what the problem is there. A lot of the same familiar names that we've seen so successful in the past are not really performing right now. But Atlanta United were up for the game. Now, I will say for Atlanta United, it's no shame to lose to Atlanta United. They have a lot of resources. The first part of the season using a lot of U16, U18 players, but they have access to the Atlanta United 2 players. They're just under their first team. And so they can bring a lot of power and attack to this side if they want to. And so they're always going to be a threat no matter who they play or what time they play in the season. But this game has really pulled them off the bottom of the table and into the mid-table, just below the playoff spots. A lot of that's because of goal difference. And we'll look at that in the league table a little bit later. But devastating loss for Dalton United, and I think that's something for them to worry about right now. But Atlanta United looks like they're finally hitting stride here. We'll see a little bit more from them this coming week. And so we'll get on to the second and the only other game we had in Zone 2 this past week. North Georgia United falling at home to Scenic City SC. Scenic City doing it again. Scenic City, of course, the Division 1 playoff champions. They were earned promotion through winning that playoff. And North Georgia United struggling. They're struggling this season. Another loss for them. They led in this game 1-0. Scenic City came back to score 2 goals later in the match. And it really shows that North Georgia, much like Dalton United, you would feel like they should be doing better. They have a good attacking front line. They've struggled in defense, though. But we'll see what Coach K and Jonathan Torres can do organizational-wise to turn that around for this season. I think they're going to be okay. I don't know about the idea of a playoff for them this season with the competition that's in there right now, because you still have LSA, you've got Portros up there at the top, and Atlanta United is going to always be there. And Scenic City is showing that they have quality too, so it's going to be a dogfight, I think, for those playoff spots. And so we'll have to wait and see how that goes for these two teams. So with that, we'll go down just another repeat of the results here. FC Columbus Elite falling to Pachuca, Georgia, 5-0. Georgia Revolution with a good win against Georgia Impact 2-1. And Georgia Athletic falling to Atletico Buford, who are on a tear this season, by the score of 1-0. And then the other results from Zone 2, we had those 2 games there. Dalton United, never devastating loss for them against Atlanta United. Atlanta United pulling themselves off the bottom of the table with a good win, 4-2. Maybe they're going to hit stride now. It'll be interesting to see if they can get into the race for the division or playoffs in that sense. North Georgia United still not getting the results they need, but Scenic City really showing quality right now and looking for that playoff place as they fight further on into this first season for them, the former Division 1 champions from the playoffs from last season. So what does that do to the division table? We're going to start by looking at zone number 1. And as I said before, Atletico Buford, the most points between all the zones right now at 13. They played more games than most of the teams in Zone 2. There's been some rescheduled due to severe weather postponements, U.S. Open Cup dates, and other reasons. But, they can only play the games that are put in front of them, and they so far have been performing quite well. But on 13 points, they have a commanding lead in zone number 1. And with that, the result that Pachuca had, that bounces them up to second place over Kalanji per profile, who are on 7 points, right behind them, with Georgia Revolution now tied with them on 7 points. And this is interesting. This is a good illustration of the way the competition is in the UPSL. Kalanji and Pro Profile and the Revolution both on 7 points. The tiebreaker in the UPSL is head-to-head. Kalanji per profile have defeated Georgia Revolution 2-0 so far in the season. So they would be ahead of them in the table, although they're on the same number of points. So it's head-to-head before goal difference. And so a lot of people might be, looking at goal difference as the tiebreaker. And it had been that way up until about 3 seasons ago, I believe, when they changed it to head-to-head, which is the same as La Liga in Spain. In England, it's goal difference. And so it's just a different way of breaking the tie. And so right now, you see that Georgia Revolution is there in 4th place. Georgia Impact sliding up the scale a little bit. They're in 5th, just outside the playoff spots. Top 4 go to the playoffs. And Georgia Athletic, I have the single victory there, but it's been enough to keep them out of the cellar. They're in 6th place. And, of course, FC Columbus still on a point in that relegation zone for the moment in zone number 1. And so we got to look at zone number 2 now. And again, like I said before, the zone 2 teams, all of them have not played as many games just yet. There are 1 or 2 games in hand over what's been played already in zone number 1. No reason other than just U.S. Open Cup games and games that had to be moved around a little bit. Potros and LSA Norcross, both on 9 points. Both have a goal difference of 11, as a matter of fact. So they're really tied. They haven't played each other yet. So that's going to be in a couple of weeks. That'll be played at Potros at Marietta High School. That's going to be an important game to check out on the Potros YouTube channel. And so that's going to be a dog fight there. It's neck and neck right now for the zone 2 playoffs. But look at there, Scenic City, 3rd place with that victory this past weekend. Critical victory in the playoff places. Just a couple of points behind the leaders there. What a fantastic start to their season here in the Georgia Premier. And quite the Cinderella story. Can they do something about even challenging for the division? I mean, can it be another Leicester City kind of situation here? But it's great fun to watch and see how that rolls out. Soccer Saves Lives in 4th place. And they have a couple of interesting games coming up this weekend that we'll get into. But they maintain hanging on to that last playoff spot there in Zone 2 so far, midway through the season. And like I said before, Atlanta United, they were on 0 points before this past weekend, rock bottom in 8th place. They're at 5th right now with a single victory. And, that comes down to goal difference at this point as you look into the and they also haven't played as many games, too. That's why, otherwise, North Georgia would probably be ahead of them in the division. So once they catch up on games, which they will do this week, those places might change depending on results there. But FC Birmingham and North Georgia bringing up the rear there in 6th and 7th, also on 3 points. And, of course, we talked about Dalton United and the challenges they have as they get into the second half of the season. Really going to have to do something. It would be amazing to see them in the relegation fight later on in the season. But right now, that's where they are. So all very interesting, all very much to play for. You're playing for the division title in 2 different zones. So there's going to be 2 champions in the Georgia Conference, one in Zone 1 and one in Zone 2. A total of 8 teams will make the playoffs, 4 in each zone. And then 1 team from each of the zones will be relegated to Division 1 for the spring 2026 season. So you got a lot to play for. You got a lot to avoid. So we'll have to see how that goes for all of these teams here. So that'll be the end of the review and the hot takes from last weekend. We do want to get into also what's going to be happening in the upcoming games. Part of what's going to be interesting in the upcoming matches, of course, are going to be the U.S. Open Cup games that are now in there. If anybody's familiar with that, it's a nationwide contest. It mixes different leagues playing together. For those familiar with the English FA Cup or League Cup, is sort of along those lines where you have teams from many different levels and different tiers playing together. Of course, we're 4th tier amateur here, pro development in the UPSL. But you have the opportunity, if you can get past the qualifying rounds, to play and start matching up against professional teams, semi-pro and professional teams. And it's great exposure for your club. It's also particularly good exposure for your players. And so this coming weekend is just such a weekend. And so we have the U.S. Open Cup. This is the first round qualifiers, and that's where the UPSL entered this competition. And in Zone 1, which means a lot of the games in Zone 1 and Zone 2 are going to be rescheduled to make room for these games. And so we have 5 teams in our conference in the U.S. Open Cup. That's the most we've ever had in this competition at one time. So we're very proud of that, very happy that these teams are taking part in this. And it can be quite the romantic story, as Massimo had said in the Center Circle podcast last week, with the opportunity of playing sort of a David against Goliath if you get that far in the competition. So Dalton United got to the 3rd qualifying round a couple of seasons ago, and really were hard done. I think when they went out, there was a rain delay. They switched fields on them, and they were playing so well and just got edged out there. So we'll see if one of these other teams in our conference can do a little bit better than that coming up. So the first game in Zone 1, Atletico Buford is going to be, they're going to be going to Majestic SC. They're playing Decatur, Georgia. This graphic is a little bit backwards, so I apologize for that. But Majestic Soccer Club is out of the ASL. That's the Atlanta District Amateur Soccer League. It's a league I'm very familiar with. I had a team in that league a few years ago, Sandy Springs FC. We played Majestic SC. It's a very good team in that amateur league, very historic team, professionally run, gives a lot of opportunities to a lot of aspiring amateur players, as well as retiring pros. So they have a good mix of youth and experience in that team. Having said that, Atletico is going to be favored going into that game as they play as the guests to Majestic. But it should be very interesting. It's a game at 4 o'clock on Sunday. Not sure if it's live stream. We're going to find out. Keep an eye on our social media posts, and we'll update you as soon as we learn about that. One game that is going to be live stream from that U.S. Open Cup is going to be Kalonji Pro Profile, who are going to come in and host LSA Norcross Pro, and this is a massive matchup. Both of these teams are doing really, really well, particularly LSA Norcross. Kalonji Pro Profile had a couple of stumbles in this season, particularly the first game against Atletico. Then, of course, they dropped points last week against Columbus. But otherwise, a very potent team. I think they're going to be up for this game on Sunday. It's going to be at Shiloh High School. And they should have their top line players back there. So immovable object against the irresistible force in this match. And we'll have to see who comes out on top. The one UPSL game in Zone 1 is Georgia Impact against FC Columbus Elite. Now, this is a very interesting game because FC Columbus Elite, of course, going to be desperate to get out of the cellar of the zone number 1. They played so well against Kalonji Pro Profile. They came back from 2-0 down to tie that game and get their first point of the season. But last week, they fell heavily to Pachuca. And so you have to ask yourself, which team is going to show up? They have plenty of incentive to get something out of this game. Georgia Impact have steadily been improving. They started out very slow, not getting any points, but this past week they got 4 points out of the two games they had over the weekend, a win and a draw. And so they're really getting to the point where they're hitting their stride, Georgia Impact, and they're going to be looking for a playoff place. So they have two different reasons that these two different teams have to play. One is looking for a playoff place. The other is trying to get out of the relegation zone. So it'll be interesting to see who's going to come out on top of that. I think it's an evenly matched game, though. And so that'll be the games coming up for Zone 1. In Zone 2, a little bit more interesting thing, too. Atlanta United Academy, I said before they had 2 games in hand. They're going to make those 2 games up this coming midweek. They have a game on Wednesday against Soccer Saves Live. It's going to be in the stadium at the Atlanta Training Ground, 8 o'clock kickoff on Wednesday night. Then they turn around and play Thursday against the Zone 1 leaders, tied with Portros, that is, LSA Norcross Pro at 8 o'clock. These are massive, massive games when it comes to the zone championship and playoff places, because Atlanta United, with that victory over the past weekend, popped themselves up to 5th place from 8th place. And so they're 1 point or 1 place out of the playoffs. But if they get maximum results from these two teams, they're all of a sudden in the race for the Zone 2 championship, along with LSA Norcross and Portros. So these are massive, massive games here. Soccer Saves Lives trying to solidify themselves in the playoffs. Of course, LSA Norcross wants to win the division. They're right there up there. So those are 2 great games to come to check out. Both of these games are on ASMG TV. So check out our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe so you'll know when these games are going to be scheduled. Hit that notification bell, and then you'll see when these games are played, as well as get notifications about our podcasts and behind-the-scenes content as well. So, and of course, the other game on Sunday is another U.S. Open Cup game. Again, 2 of our teams, North Georgia United FC hosting Portros FC. North Georgia United have been in the league kind of struggling, and Portros FC possibly the informed team in the entire conference, whether it's Zone 1 or Zone 2. And they're going to be looking to advance from this game. North Georgia United, they can use this game as a way to turn around, but they're going to have a tall order to do something against Portros. Portros in fine form, North Georgia is not. And so we'll have to see what Coach K and Jonathan Torres can do there at North Georgia United. Can he turn things around in this game, get a result, and move on? Or will they still struggle? You have to check it out on the North Georgia United YouTube channel there. They'll have that game streamed for the U.S. Open Cup. So those are the upcoming games coming to you from the UPSL and the U.S. Open Cup. So very exciting stuff to be looking forward to. Now, speaking of which, you can always catch up with all the details from the U.S. Open Cup. Is actually building up for the competition that's going to be in 2026. So right now we're at the qualifying stage, and this is where the UPSL and other amateur type leagues get involved to try to get on to the next level before the pro teams get involved. But if you go to ussoccer.com, you can go to the U.S. Open Cup link, and you can see all the qualifying rounds. Now, we have 5 teams in the Georgia Conference that are there. But in the UPSL as a whole, we have 75 teams, by far the league with the most teams in the U.S. Open Cup. That's why it's setting up to be somewhat of a interesting cup competition for the UPSL in general. I think that you're going to see some teams that are able to go far. Hopefully, it'll be one of our Georgia Conference teams, maybe more than one. So I'm looking forward to following the progress of our own teams in the Georgia Conference. I'll be rooting them all on and see how far that they can go. But yeah, a very great competition. It's the oldest competition in the United States, sporting competition, second oldest soccer cup competition in the world. I think only the FA Cup is older than the U.S. Open Cup. So a very historic competition. And so it's quite an honor to be included in that. And with UPSL being a member of USSF, that's what allows us to have the privilege of being in this cup. So be interesting to see. Check it out. Go to ussoccer.com. And of course, keep an eye on ASMG TV as well. We'll have all the details of the teams in the Georgia Conference anyway in the U.S. Open Cup. So that pretty much is all that we have for you this week. There's quite a lot more than usual because the U.S. Open Cup and some of the things that are going on right now with the leadership of the league. But just wanted to kind of give a word out to our sponsors. The ASMG Back Pass has been brought to you by Ballistic Sportswear, a leading kit provider for the UPSL. Creative and original kit designs of high quality. If you're a serious UPSL team, give them a look, and they'll help you with your team apparel. Ballistic also supplies ASMG with our professional apparel here, as you see. And so very high quality, very happy with their service. So give them a try and check them out on their social nets as well. Also, Images Frozen in Time Photography, full service photographers for a myriad of creative projects you may have. Images Frozen in Time is a partner with ASMG and provides all of the match photography and video editing you see on ASMG. When you need professional photography, look to Images Frozen in Time. So thanks for listening in this week, and we'll see you again next week with the ASMG Back Pass. We'll go over all the results from the U.S. Open Cup and the UPSL and give you any more information from behind the scenes about the league and about what ASMG is doing on these podcasts and future projects that we have. So until then, have a good day. We'll talk to you then.